I got copies of those in here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Balance and shown. Sign. Who's this guy? Let me introduce Marvin. Welcome back. Okay, we'll start with pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
All right, we got a lot to cover today, so we'll move right into approval of the minutes. You gentlemen have had a chance to read these. Do we have any questions, comments, additions? If not, I'll take a motion. Motion to approve. Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. Financial report. First of all, I just wanted to mention, State Board of Accounts did an audit this year for the from December 20th through December 23rd. So, and I think they emailed all of you guys a result of the audit. So just wanted to bring that up. So if you got any questions about anything at some point there, you can just let me know. But, and also, so going over the financials, look at September and October. September started with a balance in the bank account of $43,809.26. In September, you have receipts of $14,135.03, expenses of $9,177.12. In October, the receipts were $6,318.60, and the expenses were $16,092.86. So that left you at the end of October with a balance of $38,992.91. Updating that to the current balance as of November 15th, it's $38,076.18. I have just a few things, a few expenses that I wanted to just mention. In September, under contractual services, that included the annual Ziptility software payment for $2,215. So that was a little less, about $900 less than the first year, the initial year started. So there must have been kind of an initial startup cost fee there in the prior year. Also under repairs and maintenance, there that was Vine and Fanio had a service call to replace old circuit breaker on Scotland Road. Let's see, looking at those both were in September. In October, then under contractual services, that includes your payment to me. We hadn't billed you for about a year, so that includes fourth quarter 23, first, second, and third quarters, first, second, and third quarters of this year. And then also there was a fee payment to Westler Engineering included in there. Final that I had was on under repairs and maintenance for October. Ryan Fanny had to replace some surge protectors at 3 different lift stations. So that was, and then it also included we paid a bill from Big Bear for mowing for basically from July through October. Do you guys have any questions about anything else?
I just have a quick question for Jeff Farmer.
Yeah.
Utility, have you guys benefited from that?
Yes. Yeah, it's good, all of the line locations, so, yeah,
That's helpful then?
very, and then all the, you get. We try to, anytime we don't find something different, we get on there.
You can update it immediately.
Yeah, you can update it.
Great,
So,
thank you.
manholes off, you just stand on it. Relay the lines, the next one, so.
Thank you, Matt. All right, thanks. American construction plan.
Go ahead and approve that.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's fine.
I got ahead of myself. We need a vote. I'm out. To approve. Financial, we have them. Second, all those in favor? Aye. Financial report is approved. Accounting services agreement, I jumped ahead also. We've already discussed that, haven't we? You've already submitted that, so.
Yeah.
Do we need to also vote on that? Okay. We all have a copy of that, and this is the agreement with Matt and his firm. And it's pretty much what we've been doing, correct?
Yeah, but just changed out the bill. We were billing hourly, and then I proposed in there just a monthly.
I think you told us that once before.
Yeah, but yeah, it approximates kind of what you've been paying us anyway.
Anyone have any questions? The motion,
I'm on motion to approve.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. It is approved. Now we will get to American Structural.
Good morning. Good. My name is Jeff Flutter. I'm with American Structure Points, a project manager for the Westgate Crane Developments. Working with USDF and ROI and the Regional Sewer District. We were here today to give you an update on current overall developments in the Westgate area. As we get closer to reconvening our design services for this work. A lot of background here, and I provided a handout in advance of this meeting that I see you have in front of you. To start, I was looking back at my calendar. I think the last time we convened to talk about actual design documents was towards the end of May. At that point, we had submitted 30% design documents to USTF and our ROI and shared those with members of your team to take a look at. Since that time, there has not been much in the way of further detailed design activity. There's been a lot of movement around timing of what's going to happen at Westgate. And I have some updates on that for you today. There's been a lot of work done on funding from the state and ROI and others that I'll talk about as we go through here. So that's moved forward. And then there's been some changes to timelines of 3 projects at the Westgate area. All that would impact our water and wastewater infrastructure work at Westgate. The big one there, the Westgate 1 facility, which is the microelectronics facility, that project now really doesn't have a timeline as it's waiting on federal funding through the CHIPS Act, which our developer of the project, Stronglock, is telling us they have a new timeline. So in essence, the large sanitary user that really started the whole project has kind of slowed down. We do feel that it's still real. We just don't know if it'll start
in 3 months or 3 years. In simple terms. What has become important in the last 60 days are 2 other facilities at Westgate I wanted to talk about. And we see those on the figure on the first page here. The RCE facility will be located south of 558, very near Crane Village, as shown by the red boxes on this figure. This facility is in detailed design. Strongbox will be leading this development for the end user. They want to be online within 18 months. They have not broken ground at that location yet, but they are a minor sanitary sewer user with flows of 1,375 gallons per day, domestic sanitary sewage flow. The second building that's new really to this conversation is the IIF facility, which is the integration facility. That building will be located north of the Westgate Academy, as shown by the orange box on the figure in front of you. And that building also will be a small sanitary sewer user with a flow predicted of 2,000 gallons per day. Again, typical domestic wastewater for both of these facilities, but with an aggressive timeline. They would like to have the integration facility online and operational within a year, essentially. In the last, I would say 30 days, if you've been down to near the academy, you've seen that they have broken ground on the integration facility earthwork, dug the detention pond, and started to stabilize grade for the building itself. That's also a Strongbox development project. And what we're here today to talk about then is how we incorporate these 2 new buildings into the overall wastewater design and the change of timing to the large sanitary user, the microchip facility. What we at American Structure Point foresee happening is a contract amendment from ROI for design services, take us to completion of design of the wastewater treatment plant and sanitary sewer connections to the 2 new buildings I just mentioned. We would like to get that contract signed and get moving on that as early as the first week of December. We seem to be getting close. ROI and USDF have our contract amendment, and we're awaiting signature. As these things have developed over the past few months, there has been some changes to the design flows that we anticipate from both new buildings and the microchip facility, which appear to lead us to where we could make the new wastewater treatment plant somewhat smaller and still provide excess flow capacity for future growth. We are looking at that for 2 reasons. Obviously, to right size the size of the wastewater treatment plant is important, but also the additional expense that would be incurred to connect these 2 new buildings needed to be offset to make overall funding picture work. And that overall funding picture has come into focus over the past few months with funding available from ROI for the Ready 1.0 program, the Ready 2.0 program, and a congressionally directed spending, federal earmark, if you will, that will eventually flow through the state of Indiana to Greene County to use for either the water or the wastewater projects. So what I'm talking to you today about is some expanded scope for the 2 new buildings and some reduced scope to the size of the wastewater treatment plant. On the second page of your handout, there's a table that describes wastewater flow to your wastewater treatment plant. The purpose of that table is to show you the reasoning behind why we believe the wastewater treatment plant can be reduced in size from 400,000 gallons per day to 250,000 gallons per day. When we started the 30% design process, we ended up at the 400,000 average gallon per day flow. In the first column, you see where the flows are coming from. You have your existing flow to your existing wastewater treatment plant at 90,000 gallons per day. You have flow reserved for the housing developments at 32,000 gallons per day. We originally thought that Westgate 1, the microchip facility, would provide 100,000 gallons per day of sanitary flow. We were going to size the wastewater treatment plant to accept future Crane Village flow at 37,000 gallons per day. And then we have buffer for future development in the Westgate district of about 222,000 gallons per day. That is what went into the 30% design, again, that was submitted earlier this year. Since that time, we received one new number on the Westgate 1 development where they feel like the sanitary discharge will really be 78,000 gallons per day. The reason that number went down is that the incoming water to the microchip facility will be recycled in the process. So the incoming water will not be the outcoming water. There'll be some loss to evaporation in the cooling process. So that was a reduction. And then we are recommending the buffer that you need be lowered from 222,000 down to the 94,000 gallons per day that you see highlighted in yellow, which would lead us to a 250,000 gallon per day wastewater treatment plant. Moving to the next column, in September, we received from Strongbox updated flow projections for the new buildings that I mentioned and for other future development at Westgate. Those are listed in the table to really sum up what the buffer of 94,000 gallons that I mentioned in the first highlighted number would be used for. As we've already mentioned, the khaki building, they're predicting an average flow of 5,400 gallons per day. RCE, we just talked about, was 1,375 gallons per day. Integration facilities, 2,000. Adjacent to the integration facility is land that Strongbox predicts would have a future development with 2,000 gallons per day. And then the land around Westgate 1, 4,000, and the Martin County block of land is east of the khaki building. That's at 1,600. So what's really changed here from preliminary design is that structure point team was anticipating process wastewater from production facilities. And now the developer is telling us these buildings are more like warehouse type use or office space. They may produce and work on things, but they don't use water other than more typical domestic. I don't know the exact constituents of these future flows, but just the amount of them, they're much smaller. So what does that mean? For the wastewater treatment plant, if we were to take the size of the plant down from 400,000 to 250,000, the major change would be the oxidation ditch at the wastewater treatment plant would become a 2-ring ditch instead of a 3-ring ditch, bringing its capacity down. Every other part of the wastewater treatment plant would still be needed. We would still have Edwards building, we'd still screen it, we'd still have sludge storage, there'd still be aeration at the end, there'd still be secondary clarifiers. But we would take the base design and remove a significant outer ring of the oxidation edge. The design would allow for that bigger ring to be installed later if needed, but it would save money. You see here, item 4 about the middle, the second page, the difference in cost is about a $2.5 million savings by taking out that third ring of the oxidation edge. That savings could be utilized then to build the improvements to connect to the RCE facility in particular, because it's farther away, and to connect to the Innovation Drive lift station. If we look at the first 11 by 17 page, it might make a little more sense to you as I'm talking. The integration facility still shown in orange. It would connect to our proposed Innovation Drive lift station, which sends flow to the new facility. And then south of the Westgate Academy building, we would extend force main to a new lift station along State Road 558 and propose gravity sewer to the red buildings, which are the RCE facility. So that gravity sewer, new lift station to RCE and force main is all new costs, and then we reduce the size of the wastewater treatment plant. And also, given those flows being smaller, the red X's you see on this 11 by 17 sheet, we would remove the proposed 12-inch sewer that goes east, County Road 1400, because we don't need that piece of sewer until you connect Crane Village. And Crane Village is not going to happen underneath this current wastewater project. We pursued with the Navy a federal grant to do the work at Crane Village, and we were not high enough on the list to get that grant. So without that work, the need for that 12-inch sewer is lessened, and it is removed. And then with lower flows overall, we're proposing the smaller wastewater treatment. Also on this figure, if you're curious, the water project also has some cuts related to these same flow changes. We had planned for a water tower site for Eastern Heights Utility, south of 558. That facility is not needed for these two new buildings and their lower flows. Also, because we're not getting Westgate 1 at this point, the water main from the Purdue Research Academy that's shown in red X's, the blue line, we were going to extend the water main loop up to County Road 1700. We can not build that piece for the same reason. There's not a water demand for it right now from these two new buildings. So back to my second page here.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, you can. I've had a lot of
I'm
words.
trying to understand the water source then that's going to go to the off of County Road 1700. There's an existing line that is there.
The RCE facility in red at south of 558 will receive a water main extension in the, it will be an 8-inch, it's a light blue line. And the previously designed 16-inch pipe that was going to go to the water tower will be constructed along State Road 558 back up to the Westgate Academy. So there will be a water extension needed for the RCE building. And water will be brought by the developer from the road in front of Westgate Academy back to the integration facility.
So there's a water source, a water line there that doesn't exist now.
That will be a new project. Yes. The current Eastern Heights water comes in, to the Westgate Academy from the east. And then goes north up towards Scottsdale and Scotland, or sorry, west. Okay, that's the incoming water line to the Westgate Academy.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
You're fine. Thank you. As I mentioned, there is a funding plan to utilize the remaining Ready 1.0 dollars to get a portion of Ready 2.0 dollars and to use the federal earmark, the congressionally directed spending. I believe typically the engineering would all fall under the Ready money. Not that it takes it all, but that engineering won't be in the congressionally directed spending. That's my point. And those three funding sources appear to cover the project cost for design and construction as just described on the wastewater side. The water is a little different. They've got this federal EDA grant, plus they'll use some of the congressionally directed spending as well. Brian from USDA couldn't be here today. I don't want to speak too much more specifics about the funding because it's not in my control. We talked about Greene Village and its future. And then on the fourth page is figure from the 30% design of our planned wastewater treatment plan. The oxidation ditch is shown there with a note with the third ring of that ditch removed. The new treatment components in front of and behind that. Basically, there's one treatment train, which is the lower half of the planned and solid line, will still be constructed. And then the dashed line components, like G, that's a future oxidation ditch and a future process treatment train that wasn't intended even if it was a 400,000 gallon. It's for later if we get some huge water users. It's a separate project and we feel like, but given the flows provided by our developers at this point and how they're lower than before, this 250,000 gallon per day plant should be good for maybe forever, maybe 5 to 10 years if we develop and get high water users. But there will be additional capacity. As noted on the first page, about 75, 80,000 gallons of future capacity. The difference between 94,000 and 16,000. We have not had any detailed discussions on this project. I realized since May, again, we're waiting on funding and there hasn't been further design. It's just been until September. I didn't even know about the integration facility and the RC facility being real. And since that time, we have been coming up with a plan to try and incorporate these into the overall design and get the funding secured so we can start. At this meeting, I'm not here to ask for approval. Obviously, I'm sharing the information for the first time. I'm just here to answer questions and hopefully as design starts, we can meet with your team and talk about moving this process forward and getting your input.
Obviously, the first step is to get funding approved. Then you're gonna go ahead with your design. How long after the funding gets approved do you think you'll be in a position to award a contract?
We have the ready 1.0 funding sufficient enough to begin design. If RLI is willing to sign the contract and move forward, which they understand the need now that we have the two new facilities. Just can't guarantee when it starts. To meet these aggressive timelines on when these two buildings are gonna be in place. I've told them that we need to start design in December. With the thought being that we would design a small package to connect piping and lift stations to the two new buildings. In like a 4-month time frame, hoping to start construction on service extensions in June of 2025. And then at the same time, we will be designing the wastewater treatment plant. That would take about a year. Maybe we can start construction on the wastewater treatment plant in November 2025. If we can start design and get moving, which is based on funding.
But for now. If we go ahead and get the two small users, we do have capacity. Right to run them, right, Jim? What are we using nowadays?
Oh, we're still down at we're still down at 1,000. Well, there's been a lot of capacity spoken for, but that materialized. So, we currently have plenty of capacity.
So we've got a little time, then.
It's housing development slowed way down. Obviously, part of capacity will be talked about over the last 10 years is Greene Village, and it does seem to be moved in. So currently have capacity for what? Present, they can sell 3,300 gallons. Yeah, so we'd be fine taking it.
Money. Who pays for the design and stuff for
The design, my client is RLI. So while we're building to your standards and with your approval, the design for the wastewater is completely paid through the Ready 1.0 funds through RLI.
for the wastewater?
For the wastewater and for the water. Well, by the way, yes.
Didn't want to get confused on which one we were tackling first.
We just gotta make sure we don't over allocate our 50,000 everything. Say, hey, Bill, this,
That's really the issue. We've got several maybes. If you add them all up, then they get the capacity.
That's correct.
Or more.
And we do currently have a request for this service. I think Marvin sent you guys a draft of that recently. To connect the two small buildings though, with 3,400 gallons per day. For the two
We're in
small
red.
buildings. Yeah, the red building, the orange building. And we have spoken with the housing development right there in Scotland. He's telling us that he's barely building 13 houses a year. In a good year. He'll start building once we have these other buildings, and there's a need for him to sell houses, but. I would think he would work with you on reprojecting when he needs his flow, if he needed to do that. Tom Weininger. I think he's a gentleman I'm speaking of. We spoke with him about a few months ago about what he's truly building out versus what would happen if he could build all his houses tomorrow.
Have any other questions? Anything we can help clear up in our minds?
Nothing I can think of right now.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I do appreciate you coming and giving us all these things.
Thank you, and I do believe that, you know, as soon as we're under contract, you'll be talking with Marvin about a kickoff meeting of the design and getting your feedback. We're not just gonna go off and not get some comment on all the information we shared today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Daniel.
I don't have nothing to add. It's not. The same process. Pretty glad.
Good.
It's good.
Prometheus discussion.
Jeff may be able to comment on this a little bit as well, but I was involved in an economic development meeting this past Monday that could have significant impact for Greene County if it comes to pass. One of the questions that will need to be answered with regard to that is wastewater coverage. The location that has been proposed is not currently a part of our coverage area. The connection to that area would be quite expensive, but would be borne by the developer. On the other hand, the property may end up being served more efficiently by a package plant. And then there will be a question of who is the owner operator of the package plant. Once again, the developer will fund the funds if the project comes to pass. I just wanted to make you aware that there was potentially something in the wind that may affect this fund. Jeff, do you have anything that you would like to add to that without going into too much detail?
I think, Marvin, that you covered that pretty well. I've been advising the developer who has control of the land, so I am more familiar with things I shouldn't mention at this point.
Of course.
I think we can mention that Greene County was one of 3 nations, is what I heard. So we're getting close. I mean, they looked across the US. And so, seemed like an encouraging meeting.
The meeting was a good meeting. Hopefully we will know something around December 16th.
I might add, I believe the location of this is off of Harvest Church Road.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm guessing, 4 to 6 miles from our plant.
I was thinking, pushing forward. Yeah.
Which makes it very, very difficult to push sewer that far.
Including getting under Interstate 69.
Yeah, we did an expense, we did a cost. And that's why the package plant seemed like we think cheaper option.
Instead of going underneath size economic.
Instead of, just from a cost perspective, it wasn't double, but it was a lot. But that'll be, as Martin said, that's the developer's expense.
I'm sorry, we can't be more informative than that, but there are non-disclosure agreements and emphasis on confidentiality still in play. And hopefully I'll have something really positive to report the next time we gather.
You might have any more questions? Marvin, at the point in time? All right, we have the sixth amended sublease agreement in front of us. Obviously, we've done this a few times before, so this is pretty much this similar agreement, except we've now agreed to pay more for.
And there is one issue still up in the air. That you should talk about, and if we need to do this at a meeting later in the year, then we can do this later in the year. The discussion thus far has been that the district is in good enough shape financially, at least at this point, to be able to cover the $1,500 a month repayment instead of $704 a month repayment. What that does not do is account for the $11 per customer per month that the original agreement and every sublease amendment after that has called for to be paid for those customers who are outside Greene County. Those customers are being charged $61 a month. I believe that extra $11 was supposed to be for basically infrastructure cost recovery. And to my knowledge, the district has never been in a position to pay that. As I now understand, there are perhaps 14 or 15.
Yeah, there were 4 or 5 residential customers outside Greene County. I think it's about 14 commercial customers that are outside of Greene County.
They're 5 residential.
5, okay.
So we're what, 19, 20,
Yeah.
Just rounding to 20, and assuming that the regular customers are at 1 EU or less, that would make it a $220 a month difference in payment. Keep in mind that because I represent both bodies, I'm not here telling you what you have to do. I'm not here asking you to do. The only thing that I can do is present the information so that you can discuss it. I can be the author of the document, but I can't represent one body against the other bodies. If we reach that kind of point, that kind of difficulty, I have to step aside altogether, and each of you end up hiring your own attorneys for the sake of this negotiation. So far, through the original document, and then it's 1 through 5, that's not been necessary. I know it appreciates that. This is where we are with regard to 6. My original thought was 1,500 to care of everything, but then I went back and reviewed it, and 1,500 is just a change in the base rent. Then there are still the additional rents, the collection of the 11. So it's your discussion now.
So the 15 or so commercial users that are outside of Greene County, are they paying anything extra? They're not, are they?
Well, they are paying more than the residents.
They're paying the surcharge, if you call it that, of the $11 per EDU.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. And their monthly bills are significantly more than residential customers.
Correct. I don't think I've ever heard a number as what this additional cost was whenever that happened. Do you have any idea what that might be?
I don't know for sure, and I would assume there's the commercial paying for more EUs.
I would see already updated this.
I got some information on Sandra, so I can talk to her and see if she's got more information. So the information she gave me was just a listing of basically what their accounts, where every customer's accounts stood at the moment.
What I'm trying to search for here is, as I recall, been many, many years ago, but when the lift station was installed or turned around or whatever to accommodate those customers, that's when we decided that there was going to be an additional cost that would be borne by people outside of Greene County or any customers outside of Greene County. But I don't know what that cost was, and I don't know what all it entailed. Was it just the lift station? Was it everything else?
That, I'm not sure about that.
That was so far before my.
So I'm going to request that Jeff talk to your old buddy, Rick Toppy, and inquire if Rick has an idea of what it consisted of, even if, now, you probably won't know a number of dollars, but maybe what we were talking about at that time. I can go back and research, I've got all the minutes and everything, but I don't know that I can come up with much. I can try that.
Now, let's start with Rick. He's full of knowledge and he was here when it started, so very nice.
You know, if we knew what we were trying to pay for, it would be a start at least. And Rick might know that. Now we maybe can figure out what, do some digging, we might be able to figure out what the cost was, but we're trying to get this $11 to cover it. Because it shouldn't go on forever.
So the way I read section 6.2.1 is if we pay them a big amount of money and they run this program, then they're not paying the bills. Correct?
That's basically gonna be true. Nobody wants that, so I don't either.
Do we have a number that we're going to try to pay back? I think we talked about this not too long ago.
I would have to dig back in my emails.
You brought up,
We talked, actually, that was a telephone conversation, Luke, we talked about that, and I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but it seems to me that it's something slightly in excess of $500 million. Attributable in the redevelopment authority fund, that this is ultimately helping pay.
can you enlighten the board just a little bit on how that, I mean, I want to say this, I think that there was a bond that was used to pay for a number of things.
Right,
We were one of the things.
that's correct.
And because all this was paid for, we were supposed to pay that back.
There was a particular number, I believe it was in the original sublease. And right now, I do not have a copy of that with me, and I don't recall what that number was, and I think it was something slightly in excess of $500,000. That was attributed to this project out of the original $8 million bond.
So I'm confused. If we got a bond issued, then I guess the redevelopment commission was a part of the distribution of all that money. Why does it have to be paid back? Mr. Graves, can you help with that? You were on the redevelopment, weren't you?
It's a creation of the debt. That's, I'm not sure that maybe I'm not.
But I don't understand, if the money was granted to build all these projects and everything, if the state authorized the money or whoever authorized the money, I don't understand the payback part of that.
It was a local bond issue. And so
So we borrowed the money, is what you're
that's
saying.
right. The redevelopment authority borrowed $8 million. I don't know, 2012, somewhere around there. The redevelopment authority borrowed $8 million. That's the money that the fire station and the infrastructure, built the existing treatment plants. I don't know, but some of the money may have gone into improving what we now refer to as Progress Point. But it was the redevelopment authority that had to do the borrowing because the dollar amount was high enough that the redevelopment commission was legally barred from borrowing money. So we had to go into that extra step to make use of a body that actually could borrow those dollar amounts. That's basically why the redevelopment authority exists as a borrowing agent that can borrow. I think the limit on the commission is $2 million, and the redevelopment authority is limited by what it can show that it's going to pay. And so that's why there are leases and subleases. There is a lease related to the fire station, and the fire station is putting money, not a huge amount of money, but is putting money toward the repayment ultimately of that bond. The redevelopment authority leased a substantial portion of this to the redevelopment commission because the authority was the original owner. The commission then had subleases doing this, whereby they were receiving contributions by the bodies that benefited toward the repayment of the bond. Does that help address your question?
It does. It would really help if there was a number attached to that.
Well, like I said, we got a number a few days ago, but I can't remember it right now. I think it was a little over that 1,000. I will make a note. I will go back.
I'm just playing dumb because I look at this is a bill that we have to pay, obviously, because it was borrowed money. And I understand that, but I would like to know what the amount was that we're trying to repay, and then how much have we paid so far? Is there an ending point to this? Or does it go on for?
If I remember correctly, the master lease was a 20-year lease, but I could be mistaken. They didn't know to do that.
And I think when we talked, you mentioned that 2013 is when it was enacted, and it was over in 2033, I believe.
Okay. Well, I know that the bond itself was paid off in, I think, 2032 or 2033. And that's because in 2021, the redevelopment authority refinanced that bond. We reduced the balance something in excess of $1 million at the time. And got a tremendously cheaper interest rate on that bond, such that the bond is going to be paid off in the same amount of time that it would have had we left it unrefinanced. But we're saving a considerable amount of money having refinanced it. And so that doesn't change the obligation of the various bodies to contribute. The principal of the debt still was initially $8 million, refinanced to something over $4 million. But at least it's paid off in the same amount of time, less interest to.
That helps a great deal. I understand.
I will go back to your documents review and report to the board on your terms, the dollar amount attributed, the time frame. At one time, I believe I have done some work toward trying to identify a dollar amount still owed. What I had researched
did not include that original. The original on. So it's serious, but I got information on specific advances made to sewer district and also essentially construction costs overpaid by the county.
And again, if a final amount is documented in the village of sums, then that's probably. So
That makes more sense to me that you would have this.
I will obviously include you on that separation.
Thank you. Appreciate that. This then needs to be reviewed. And because there's a signature on this, has to be approved. Correct? I'm asking that question because I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're not ready to approve it today. And so it sounds like you're going to want to table action on it and get additional information and take it up again at your next meeting. Whether that's in December or whether you decide not to meet in December and want to do it in January. Because it has to be approved by the redevelopment authority as well, I'd like to make sure that we have something by the redevelopment authority. Which would be
So our goal should be to have this approved by January.
if it can be done in December, if it can be in December, then I try to get it done in December. I'll tell the redevelopment commission the same thing after a while. So, it needs to go out to January. Then one, but it's going to be effective January 1st, regardless of when the date. And number two, if we have to do this, it will still get done with the redevelopment authority. It's, that works well because that way I can get everybody's signatures within the week. So
Then I recommend we table this until our next meeting, whenever that might be, which is,
motion to table it because circumstances.
I'll set a motion. A motion that we have a second. The other one. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We need to talk about a meeting schedule for next year. I would recommend we follow the same process we've been using. Just we schedule one every month and we can always cancel if it's necessary. Does that work? Yeah, we do.
Like motion to follow our schedule.
We just have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Does Wessler have anything to add to the meeting today? Thank you. Any other business?
Well, the question of whether you want to meet in this summer. And that's something that, and the rest of the team may be able to speak to in terms of whether they believe that there would be enough business, or maybe it was more believe that there would be enough business between now and the end of the year to warrant a big meeting. If you don't make that decision today, that's fine, but the decision you should make is to give the president clear authority to cancel the meeting. Should it become clear that the meeting is not needed.
Well, I'm leaning towards unless we have something come up between now and then, I don't know any reason to have a meeting in September.
Guys, do you have any? I see that concurrently. In her eyes and that.
Sharon, do we have anything that you can put?
Part of this G starts out. Yeah, Clover, you see it. Thing coming down the structure point types of that with the requirements body suspension.
This time, we'll have.
So it's the 16th, because a lot of things are happening on the 16th.
Yeah, we'll have a regular month of the coordination meeting. Last meeting. Yeah.
So if
We get approval much sooner than that, I'll reach out. Or I'll let you know if we have approval,
okay,
but I don't know if I have that.
all right.
Move that, that's something.
Yeah.
And the commissioners would like for you to have a December meeting. We'd like for you to talk to the other county officials and iron out this agreement. There's some confusion about what you think you owe, what you don't think you owe. See if we can't get some information to you so you can make a decision before the end of the year. And see if we get both groups to decide what those amounts are going to be. And I don't think that either side knows fully what's owed or what's not owed. I don't know that we can do that quickly, but I sure like to do that before the end of the year if at all possible.
I guess that depends on if we can find out some of the dollar issues.
We should be able to get that, but it's just if we can get the other people to attend that meeting, so we just have one meeting instead of going back and forth. I know it puts Marvin in an awkward position since he represents both sides. I'd like to be all be in the same room and say, here, this is what we owe and how can we pay it back?
So just to be clear, you're asking for a joint meeting between the redevelopment commission and the regional sewer district in December.
Correct.
Would that be on the 19th? The Thursday that we normally do?
They usually meet right after you on the same day. I think it's easier if we got you all in the room at the same time and talk
I
about it
understand.
and not have anything else to deal with, just deal with this one.
Instead of one issue and
Yeah.
quick.
Yes, deal with that and focus on that and get that resolved and move on.
Did I hear you say that I shouldn't show up?
I didn't think
Because I thought I heard.
something pretty
I heard that too. Thank you. That's doable. We can certainly, as long as we can get a quorum, we can be all right, even if someone has issues.
I can be here for at least support.
And I mean, they not have to do this today. I mean, maybe we can make it a different day or whatever. I just like to do it before the end of the year if at all possible.
Now, I'd like to see those numbers and we'll have an understanding too. And then once we get that settled, well, then Matt, I think then we need to work on, and Jeff with Rick Copping's help, we need to work on what that other payback issue is.
I think that makes it easier for all of us.
Is that gonna create a conflict for you with everybody here?
I would give you the same admonition
Okay,
that I did a few moments ago.
Okay.
In this case, the scrivener, I believe that's also what I said.
Yeah.
I circulated this by email. And so, yeah, there will be admonition after admonition after reminder after admonition. Because one of the complexities is that I just can't represent diverging interests.
Right.
This is a place where those interests diverge, and it's really not like a home favorite conflict of interest. You guys can work all that out on your own in an own meeting. I can sit here and listen to reduce the part of the fighting. No problem. That is how conflict is.
Okay.
You understand, they understand. That is the limit of my role.
That would be the nice thing about a joint meeting. If you have a joint meeting, you can vote during that meeting, you can negotiate terms, you can adjust whatever you want to adjust, and we just resolve it one time.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
I can, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. A regular time on the 19th.
Well, unless it comes to a different day, if that's something that comes up in the course of scheduling that the 19th doesn't work. We'll we'll notify everybody what the date is and time.
Okay.
My problem is I have to be in Indianapolis at 1:30. And with traffic sometimes being unpredictable, I need to get away at least by 10:30. The redevelopment commission normally meets at 9:30. What we ask them to compromise that at 9:00. A little later for you if that works, a little earlier for them.
Doesn't have to be on the Thursday. I mean, I don't care if it's
You'll
a different day,
sure.
day before or something, that'd be.
Um. Okay. Then, they're meeting late today, which is why we have the luxury of extra time. And, so let me talk to them. Would you put your calendars to the 18th? And see if that's the Wednesday. And see if you have any conflicts with a 9:00 meeting on the 18th. I do. Okay. With that,
I have a doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock, so,
understood.
but I could go another day. I mean, it could be earlier. I have a doctor's appointment also on Tuesday. I'm sorry.
And Tuesday is commissioners and EMS, and so we wouldn't be able to meet in the morning. And as Jeff Chief said a few minutes ago, you'd like to be involved in a utility coordination.
What about a week earlier?
10 o'clock that morning, let me pull the week before. Thursday the 12th appears to be a good day, on my calendar at least. What does it look like for you?
It's good for me.
Can we have all the numbers together for that thing?
No. You'll have my part of it probably later today.
Well, that's all. Would not work for me.
Okay. Is the whole week bad for you?
Yeah, number, I'll make out of 10, 3, 10, 12.
Okay. Nine hole, it's, if open space, there's always Friday the 13th.
I'm good then.
You just have to be back in with the 2, so that wouldn't be a problem. We see what redevelopment can do. And if that works out with the majority of them, you'll get a notice of a rescheduled meeting to be conducted jointly with the redevelopment commission.
Okay.
Thank you for the discussion.
I have one more thing. Rick Graves. Can you give us any update on funding and where we are?
Well, I think Jeff has as much information as I do. I think all of this is going to hinge on the earmark. You know, if the congressional earmark is a go, and whenever that go is a go, this will move ahead. If the congressional earmark does not, this will get pushed on down the road and probably get modified. I think it's fair, so, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, we were talking with the Indiana Finance Authority. And we were asking that question because Marvin asked.
Right.
February or March is when typically the federal budget bill would go through, that would have that earmark in.
Again, that was over the construction, construction part of it.
The requested earmark for a variety of projects down there, and I haven't seen a breakdown of these funds. I'm feeling the breakdown is intended to be available afterward, but the earmark request was for $25 million for a wide variety of projects affecting the area of Westgate, defense border kind of thing. And so we'll see as that goes through. That is similar to difference here in the past. But I want good work there.
Very good. Well, that's more than we knew. We appreciate updates on that funding because obviously that's all we had a conversation with Tim yesterday and we talked about what was going to happen. I said, I hope we're going to learn a little bit about funding. And he said, it'll be the same conversation we have in the elevator going down at the end of every meeting. And I think Leslie was part of that last one. We're doing this, but we don't know what's going to happen until somebody says they've got some money.
I say that. Thank you.
All right, any other issues before the board that we should bring up? And we're looking for a adjournment. Second.
I'll second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Oh, Jennifer, before you run